Welcome to the Association's Futures Podcast, brought to you by Association Activision. We ask you to join us to discuss the future of the Association's community. How can we build and focus on the many futures we will see during these disruptive times? Let's get started with today's guest.
Well, welcome, friends, to Association Futures Podcast with part 2 of our special podcast celebrating ASAE's Key Consultant Committee, and in this case, the chair of the Content Subcommittee, Barbara Armitrad. Barbara, back to you.
Thank you so much. Long introduction for the little short person, I know. Thank you all for joining us. And this is part of the content we are delivering consultant to consultant to help our colleagues who are association consultants help their businesses thrive and do well in the funny little community that we have working with nonprofits and associations. This is part 2 of a recording on business relationships and business models. And this one's going to focus on business models. So I want to get to the substance so we can do a quick 30-second intro of each other. I'm Barbara Armitrad of BJA Solutions. I help associations with strategic planning to boost their non-dues revenue. Scott.
Scott Oser with Scott Oser Associates, and just real quickly, we help associations with marketing and sales.
Excellent. Lee Duffy.
I am Lee Duffy from Triology. We help organizations build engagement through combining data science and insight.
And I just want to mention, in case people have noticed, you may have a British accent. You are located where, but you are available to work during American hours, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. We're based in the UK. We have offices in Australia as well, and we work across Europe, Republic of Ireland, and obviously in the US.
Excellent. Mr. Whalen.
Rick Whalen with Marketing General. We help grow association memberships and help increase their non-dues revenues.
Nice. Yes, that's where you schooled me. Yes. Mr. Butera, and again, thank you for hosting our podcast.
My pleasure. Michael Butera with Association Activision. I help associations see what's next through scenario and strategic planning, coaching, and of course, the opportunity to build teams for strategic capacity. And back to Barbara.
Well, thank you. Okay, now we're going to dive into some business models. I know this is a topic that many people responding to the recent surveys said they really want to find out, because there's the retainer relationship, there's a project-based, there are fractional executives. Sometimes it's a finite project. I know that quite often we get clients who reach out to us and say, well, how many billable hours to do a moonshot? You know, I need to get you into my budget. And others just want us to Netflix our services. You know, well, I'll use you when I need you, and then I won't use you when I don't need you. Scott, I'm a solopreneur. You have a very interesting variation on your business model where I think you are the only FTE, but you are certainly not a sole operator. Describe your business model and how it works for you and your clients.
Of course. Thanks, Barbara. My model is sort of a hybrid, actually, because as needed, I can be the one who does all of the work for a client. So I would be the solo FTE in that situation. Actually, I am always, let me clarify. I'm always the solo FTE. I am the only full-time employee of Scott Oser Associates. But what I do is I do a couple of things. And this started because honestly, when my business started to grow years ago, I just did not have the capacity to do all of the work that was needed. So what I started doing, especially on the sales and on the phone-based outreach side of things, was I started bringing in 1099s. So I have been able to find some very competent and some very committed people who have expertise in those areas, and I bring them on. I don't want to, my goal was never, with my firm, was never to be a gigantic company, a business. I didn't want to have a lot of full-time employees, and I didn't want to, this is going to sound bad, but I'm just going to say it. I didn't want to pay benefits to all these people. I didn't want to have to manage all of the administration having to deal with all these people. But I did, as a consultant, want to not have to say no to a lot of business just based off of capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So if there are projects, if it's project-based work, sometimes I will be the only one who is involved. There are other times if it's sort of an ongoing telemarketing effort, as an example, or if there is someone who needs sales of exhibit sponsorship and advertising, or any combination of the three needing to be done, and I simply don't have the time to do it, I'll bring in and oversee. I don't manage, I don't micromanage. I kind of oversee and talk strategy with the person that is doing that work, and I make sure that they are on top of everything. But I am always going to be the only full, at least I shouldn't say always, because my model has changed over years.
Never say never.
Yep, exactly. That's why I'm never going to say never. But as of now, my vision is that I will be the only one who is a full-time employee. I'm the only one who gets payroll. I'm the only one who gets taxes taken out, and everything like that. So that was my way of being able to grow my business without having to expand my employee base.
Well, and without giving up the reason why you have a consulting practice. You know, it's to do what you do and not run the practice sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
Rick, you've had a long career with a very association-specific, mainly marketing agency. What business models are you seeing these days as the go-to for clients who are looking for help in membership and marketing? Is it still a contract? Is it a retainer? I mean, what's the business model?
Yeah, I was going to say everything Scott didn't want to do, we decided to do. So we're a classic agency. I think there are 50 or so staff all around the country now that work with clients. And our model has evolved likewise. It
Yeah.
used to be that we wanted an agency engagement, monthly fee and project fees and blah, blah, blah. But as we've grown and clients have grown, we've changed now. So we'll do the one FTE if you're looking for someone to come in. We've got a couple clients where, in quotes, we are the marketing or membership manager. We don't run staff, but we basically guide staff at the client's location. We'll still do the full agency engagement, or we'll do project work depending upon what clients need and when they need it. For instance, we've got several clients that use us for conference marketing. It's not a full 12-month engagement. It's so many months before and after the. So it has changed, and I think it's allowed us the flexibility to get deeper into the association market. And it's also allowed our clients then to feel more comfortable, as we talked about in part one, of not paying a fee every month and then wondering, what are we getting for that fee?
Yeah.
So we have changed, and I think it's been a plus for our business.
Cool. And Lee, you also have an agency, and I know, and I hope I'm not overemphasizing that your work is with qualitative and quantitative research for data challenges. Is that fairly? I don't want to pigeonhole you too much.
Yeah. Just to clarify that, we have two teams. One is a insight team, which is essentially running forms of research, qual and quant research, and then we have a data analytics team
Okay.
doing more data science type work. But they work in tandem, and they will, exchange projects and bounce around projects between them as they progress.
So how do you package options for your clients? And are you experimenting with any new offerings?
Well, the reality is, you don't want to turn down opportunities to bring in revenue if you feel that you can do that in a sensible way that works for you and works for the client. So that means that in practice, we have all sorts of things going on. We have people that do a few hours per week or per month or per day for clients, and essentially are doing a standard or fixed task, regular task for that client. We have clients where, and this is the majority of our work, where we'll have a schedule that we've evolved with the client. So if I think about membership organizations, that might often be, they might want some renewal modeling once a month or once a quarter or twice a year when they have their budget cycles. And then say, or we have Well, we don't want to be that segmentation. We don't know exactly when we're going to do that.
Mm.
So we tend to have project-based work happens within no so it's
Okay. And in part one, we mentioned that part of the relationship with a client is asking some of the hard questions. So I'm going to toss this one out for all of you to chew on. When do you talk money? When do you talk billables? But it's part of how do you decide which business model is right for this client versus a different model. And I know many consultants are very skittish about bringing up the dollar, but I, I got to know this. And I mean, and one of the easy ones is during a discovery call, finding out
Yeah.
when is the fiscal year, when are they planning to, okay, you're gathering information on a project, when do you see this beginning? So Rick,
Yeah.
when do you talk money?
So first of all, let me tell you about the great lie. The great lie is when any client says to you, "Oh, I don't have any number in mind."
Oh,
They
yeah.
all have a number in mind. They won't share it with you. So I asked the question, Scott talked about, and we've all talked about the discovery call. So I get through most of the discovery call, and one of my questions is always something along the lines of, "What did you think you want to spend to get this work done?" Now, some people will say, "Well, I have a budget," and I'll say, "What is it?" And of course, they're not going to share it with me. So then I
Mm-hmm.
say, "Well, could you give me a range? Is it
Mm-hmm.
10 to 20, 20 to 30, 40 to 50, blah, blah, blah." Because sometimes you can tell right in the range they're giving you. I had just had a research client that wanted to get this whole big research project done, wanted to talk to members, wanted to look at the competition, blah, 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 and they wanted to spend $10,000. And I said, "It ain't happening." I said,
And they wanted to finish next month. Yeah.
"Well, yeah." And I said, "It ain't happening. You're talking probably more like 50 plus $1,000." And the woman gulped. And I said, "I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to explain it to somebody else in your company, the board, but 10,000, it ain't, and someone's going to take that work for 10,000, but you won't be happy with what the outcome is." So I try and get those prices up front. It depends. Some clients will tell you we think we have blah blah in the budget, or they're saying we're planning on next year's budget. I just need to know a number, which one I want to do a range. But I ask it again. I'm not shy about saying my time is valuable, my people's time is valuable. So if you want to work with us, we want to work with you. But let's find a number that everybody's comfortable with. It's not a 29.95 or go away. But clearly I'm not.
And if you can't discuss it with them, then what kind of client are they going to be?
Yes, they're going to be there's going to be problems along the line.
That's part of setting the expectations that we're then
Yes.
managing. And Michael, I know a lot of your, I'm going to call them deliverables, but it's more thought leadership,
Right.
where sometimes it may be hard to define the scope or contain the scope. Because when you go into governance, it's real easy to, well, why don't we talk about this? So, when and how do you discuss billables when you're meeting with a prospective or new client?
So I start much like we've heard our friends here on the call talk about, and that is to start with a discovery, try to make sure I understand what it is that they really want, because sometimes they start out by telling you something that isn't what they really want. You have to be smart enough to make sure you know exactly what the scope of the project is.
Mm-hmm.
And then slow but sure, you deal with, well, do you have a budget? What's the range? Things that we've already heard from other people. In those particular areas, you have to be smart enough to tell people that you're worth the dollars they're about to spend. And you can't shy away from that. Now, for my keynote speaking, that's a pretty easy thing. That's a pretty good turnaround, and it depends on the size of the audience, really. The thing that I've started doing just recently is I've worked with a partner to develop a learning program, an online self-taught learning program, which we sell at a fee. And then we have a monthly, biweekly, excuse me, office hours with the people who
Mm.
who are taking the course on their own. That's a new project for me. It's just starting to show some positive impact. But the bottom line is you can't be afraid to tell people what it really costs. because you end up doing bad work and the relationship will be lousy, and you really don't want that to happen.
Mhm.
That's really true. I think it's very easy to price stuff just because you want to have it, and it's the worst way to start a relationship. The client is going to always see that first thing as your level of price, and you have to be very sure. We will often price things because Rick's absolutely right. I'm sure everyone's seen it. Clients don't often share their budget. Some will, and that's great when they do. When they don't, we tend to do high, medium, and low options. But you have to be really sure that the low option still works for you. Most people will choose the middle one, but you have to be really sure that the low one still works. And as well, I think be brave and clear about the value that you bring. Often I'll price things up and the team will look at it and they'll go, why is that just that amount? And I go, well, that's, maybe a few days work. And I go, yeah, but that's the value. That's what they're getting. And I'm like, yeah, of course,
Mhm.
because clients do tend to think about, well, how long would it take me or my team to do it, and that's the wrong way to look at it. So you have to be very clear and bold and brave enough to know this is what we do. This is the value of it. And
And how many years have I been doing it that I can do that in 15 minutes?
absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. Okay.
I was going to add something that I heard Rick say, which I think is important. Sometimes with clients that you've had before, they'll call you before they make their budget and they'll say, "Look, we want to do this project. Tell me what it's going to cost," and they put it in their budget.
Yeah.
They're really nice clients to have.
Yes,
And
yeah.
they're really nice clients to have. That does happen, but that's not the norm. I don't have that happen regularly. What
Do
I
any of you respond to RFPs by any chance? I
Oh,
know that.
Yep.
Barbara, you're going to open that can of worms.
Well, just a little bit because I'm allergic to RFPs. I would really rather not, but there are times when I'll see one and it's like, oh, I know those people. I know what they do. I'd love to be associated with them if I could. Or, hey, look how much they're willing to spend. But that's not, they don't usually reveal that in the RFP. Um, okay.
My rule on that, Barbara, is usually it's a paper chase. And so one of the first questions I ask is, how many people did you send this out to? And people
Yes.
will say,
Yeah.
oh, 10 or 12 firms. And I'm saying, yeah, we're out.
No.
It's a paper chase. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
If it's 3 or 4, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, I'll just follow up on that real quickly. I don't give many proposals or respond to basically any RFPs. But one of the things that I think that if advising new consultants or whatever is exactly what Rick said. I mean, if somebody is throwing out on Collaborate that they're going to be submitting, that they're going to be disseminating an RFP, and they're just opening up to the entire ASAE consulting world that you're welcome to submit if you think you're a good fit, I'd run away from those because that means who knows how many they're going to get. And as a solopreneur, it takes a lot of time,
It
I mean,
does.
that's
Heart and soul and
taking,
time. Yeah.
yep, that's taking time away. I mean, there are lots. That's why I said, Barbara, jokingly, I said, you're going to open that can of worms. There's lots of things about RFPs. But to me, one of the main things is it takes a lot of time to submit a good one and put together a good one. And I can't take my time away from the rest of my business to do that.
Well,
Now,
and
I've had, oh, I'm sorry, Barbara. I was going to
I
say, I
was,
have had people say to me, it's board mandate. I need to get 2 or 3. That's fine. I'm okay with that. But once a number
but then
goes,
you highball it because it's not going to be,
yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah. And I assume that like me, if y'all are interested in responding to, uh, a word of mouth referral or anything else, I do my homework before I schedule or before I meet with a new discovery call. So I've already been through their 990s. Sometimes I've looked at their annual reports. I've got a pretty good sense and feel for them if I don't already know them. And in some cases, I've sussed out, oh my God, what they're asking me to do is on their strategic planning. Yay! Um, but you do your homework before you take the calls, and then you match what you have uncovered with what the client is telling you, just like Rick said in the very beginning. Don't always believe what they're telling you. Well, it is time for us to wrap up part 2. This went so quickly. I thank you all. So For our takeaways on this, again, if you could put your contact information in the chat, which we'll put in show notes for people to reach out to you. And I'm going to ask you to either do what is the one takeaway that you want people to remember? Or alternately, is there a mistake that you have made over the years dealing with client relationships or business models that you would like people to learn from? All of these things that you can do in 1 minute or less. So, Scott, you get to go first this time.
All right. I guess one thing that I would just put out there is don't be afraid to charge. And I think Lee said this actually. So I'm going to steal Lee's thunder a little bit. And Lee, I apologize for that up front. But don't be afraid to charge what you're worth. You know, I think that, especially for me, and this was more true when I started my business, you know, I don't want to scare away business. So, you know, I'm a little bit hesitant sometimes to charge what I really want to charge. But I think that you need to put that out there because otherwise you're potentially leaving money on the table and you're also devaluing yourself and your services. And so what I would say, my piece of advice is don't be afraid to charge what you think you're worth and put that out there to prospects. And some are going to take it and some are not, but that's a learning curve for us as well too.
Excellent. Michael.
One of the things I've learned is that every contact is a potential client, and sometimes the contact occurred a year ago. You may not even remember that you had that, individual call. So if there's anything that I would add, it's, maintain your contacts. It's not really networking like we sometimes talk about, but maintain your contacts, demonstrate your interest in others, and that will bring you good clients and good work and keep you pretty busy.
Great. Mr. Duffy.
Yeah, I build on that. I agree. I've had clients phone me up, you know, years after I've maybe pitched to them, and they'll say, "Oh, I really liked what you said at that," and I think, "Okay, I don't remember that," but
What did
I
I
guess
say?
I guess it depends on really what the guys have said so far is just being authentic all the time. So even if you know, maybe you're in a room where four people are making a decision and three of the people think you don't know what you're talking about, and one person thinks that you do, that one person might come back to you in a few years' time. And that's because you were authentic and you connected with that person. So I think that's the way that I look at all my client relationships and I behave with clients with integrity and authenticity. And where that means you have a connection, that's wonderful because it just means everyone's happy and you work together for a long time. You can't be like that with everybody. You know, that's like a 1 in 10 person, you know, but that's great. That's enough.
Great. Thank you, Rick.
Yeah, I echo those things. I mean, to be upfront with clients builds trust, and that builds long-term relationships. I have clients that I've followed to 2 or 3 different associations, and I don't always get to business, but they always include me in the conversation. And I routinely ask current clients about referring me. So, you know, there's when I see something on Collaborate that I'm interested in, I'll have clients saying, "Could you recommend me to, you know, in private to blah blah blah?" Because I think that's the strongest recommendation you can get for new business. Clients saying they help me and they can help you.
And since we're talking about responding to Collaborate, I want to remind consultants, one of the most powerful tools you have on Collaborate is they give you 2 channels to reply. So please reply publicly to the group with your capabilities and willingness. But if you're going to do a sales pitch, you better do a private reply or I'm going to report you to the Collaborate police. You know, do not reflect poorly on the rest of our consultant community by pitching your crap. Oops, I did that on here. But use Collaborate wisely. It can be a very good tool. But also, as Scott said and Rick said, if they're sending out the RFP to a dozen people, run away. You don't need to do that. And I'll just share my little takeaway, which is I love, as much as my schedule allows me to attend webinars and sessions where there is a topic that appeals to me, either someone who I want to know more about and see how they're thinking, or it's a topic that relates to how I do my business, and perhaps I can find clients in the chat room. Nothing wrong with that. Um, And just use Collaborate and ASAE as a tool to help you. But remember, ASAE is not here to help you get business. ASAE is here to help you learn how to run your business a little more successfully. So thank you all so much for your honesty and for joining us. It was great getting everybody together from all these different time zones. And I thank you, and we will see you again at another one.
Happy New Year, everybody. Thank you.
Same.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Barbara. Thanks,
Same.
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thanks, Barb.